I just watched Curly's video again, and the challenge is exactly that we have to say which 5 books we think every person should read before the time that they finish high school. They don't have to be in school, they don't have to be in high school, but they just have to be up until your senior year of high school. Which books are mandatory for you to read? One book that I agreed with Carly that should be mandatory for reading is The Little Prince. But my guidelines go a little bit further. I think that everyone should read The Little Prince in French. Le Petit Prince. Oui? Now I realize not everyone speaks French, so the English version is fine in that case, but the original French by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. Now that was a butchering of his name in my French accent. My accent is terrible. I realize this. I've been working on it. I swear I've been working on it. And I think that the reason why The Little Prince should be read is because, as an artist, I think the beginning is brilliant. The book basically explores how sometimes just because someone tells us something, our whole life is altered. Because someone told the character in the book that he was not a good artist, or that they couldn't understand what his art was, he didn't continue with art. He just gave up. He could have been a fantastic artist, and we would never know. So basically, be careful what you say to people, because they might want to continue with their art, or whatever it is they want to pursue. The real message here is if you want to do something, go do it. Unless it's illegal. But then again, I can't really stop you from doing it. Unless it's like robbing my house or something. Yeah, don't do that. Don't. The second book is a little bit more mature in the fact that it's Kurt Vonnegut's Welcome to the Monkey House, and it's more of a series of short stories. The individual short story Welcome to the Monkey House is probably the number one which I suggest, but the whole series of short stories is brilliant. You should go read it, because Vonnegut's a lunatic, crazy man, and his books are so intense. It's very much Fahrenheit 451 in the fact that it's like a whole, in the way that it messes with your mind sort of thing, like what if this was really our world? And Welcome to the Monkey House, specifically that short story, makes you think, what if this were our world? And if you go read that, then come talk to me about it, because it's pretty insane. Just thinking about it makes me think about it. What? Intellectual, I know. Number 3 might be Fahrenheit 451. That was a book that I read, I think, in my junior year, maybe my sophomore year of high school. And I don't know, everyone in my class didn't read it, and I found it really ironic because of what the story... Also, did you know that Fahrenheit 451 was published in a shorter version known as The Fireman? I didn't know that, but Google just told me that. Yay for Google! A book that I really enjoyed was My Sister's Keeper. I have not seen the movie. I hear that the ending of the movie is completely different than the book, and it upsets me what I've heard about the end of the movie versus the end of the book, because that book was probably one of the most perfect books I've read, I believe, in my entire life of reading. It was, the way that it's written is that it's from different points of view. Each chapter is a different point of view, and reading it like that made it more complicated for me, but I liked it. And I think having that sort of challenge in literature, I mean, if any other book does that, go ahead and read that book, but this book, My Sister's Keeper, was a book I will never forget. And I don't think necessarily everyone has to read that by the time they're out of high school. Girls, you might like to read it. Boys, go ahead, it's great. And the writing, I think, is pretty good. But then again, I'm not really that good at it. I'm not the person to go to for judging of writing. Because, I mean, I've read Twilight, so, and somewhat enjoyed it at the time. Who am I kidding? I loved Twilight when I read it. But I do not think that Twilight should be on the list of necessity to read before high school. In fact, if I were to tell people to read Twilight, I wouldn't tell people to read Twilight. Actually, maybe that'd be fun. Maybe you should read Twilight before you get out of high school. I think that would be an entertaining social experiment to see if everyone in the world reads Twilight before they get out of high school. Yeah. That's like a 4B. It's not my 5. Book number 5. Book number 5 Marla's going to be really happy about, because she was the one that told me to read this, is Animal Vegetable Miracle, which was a book that I read for summer going into junior year. It was a book that, it took me a while to get into it. Actually, not that. It was a book that I would never have picked up if she hadn't told me to, or if it wasn't assigned for summer reading. But it sort of blows your mind. If you've ever seen the movie Food Inc., which I have only seen parts of and have no desire to see the whole thing, it's kind of gives you that mind on like what we eat and how it differs from. It talks about organically grown food and this family that eats it for a year. It's not something that I'm going to spoil for you because it's more of like a documentary than a documentary. Is that what you call a book? Do you call a documentary a book that's about what? Anyway, yeah. So those are my 5 books. I'm sorry that I don't read very often. I hope those were good for you.